What's up, guys, and welcome to the Innergy Motto. This is a platform where we reveal the life lessons behind paradigm shifters in their field and explore the habits and mindsets that allow us to tap into our energy from within. On today's show, we are presenting a very special guest who we had the privilege to sit down with and meet with in person to record the following conversation. Tashi Mannox is one of the world's most respected and recognized contemporary Tibetan artists and calligraphers. British born, he had a fascinating upbringing full of exposure to ancient Eastern traditions from the Lamas and the enlightened masters. This led to a profound curiosity for the aesthetic nature of the old scriptures, and he set out on a journey to massively innovate and transform the art world. Before his explosion of art, however, he renounced everything in the West and became a monk at only 22 years old. For the next 17 years of his life, he apprenticed under a master in Tibetan art and connected deeply with the roots of Buddhist tradition. He traveled around Europe and Russia, leading retreats and instructing at Dharma centers on meditation and yoga. In the year 2000, he laid down his monastic robes and embarked on a journey of a struggling poor artist in London. His discipline in manually transcribing ancient Tibetan scripture during his monk years and his tremendous eye for beautiful design eventually led him to rise as an established and praised artist. Through his creative career, he has been invited to showcase his work in the world's most prestigious exhibitions in New York, London, Moscow, and even Bhutan. At the core of his work lies the push to conserve and preserve the language of Tibetan, as it's been listed by UNESCO as one of the world's most endangered languages. He was even assigned as the ambassador of Bhutanese calligraphy in order to establish the practice back into school curriculums all over the country. Join us as we go in depth with Tashi about why we think from our heart, what it's like to be around enlightened masters in the Dalai Lama, and how to change negative belief patterns. The following conversation was recorded in Tuscany, Italy at a Live Beyond experience. If you want to learn more about what we're up to at the Innergy Motto, subscribe to this channel and connect with us on social media. Also, make sure to leave a like and a comment to show our guests some love on this video. So without further ado, we present to you the artist who is channeling his loving kindness into all his beautiful masterpieces and whose art you'll probably see as a tattoo at some point on someone's body. Tashi Mannox.
Thank you so much, Tashi, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Absolutely. We just wanted to start off maybe asking you a little bit about your path.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe how you got into calligraphy as a young person, just for the audience. I know you've given us a little bit of background, but just to get back on it.
Calligraphy. It's I am actually dyslexic.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. So I guess that drove me to want to learn harder, because you don't want to fail. You need to get on in the world. But it's not English calligraphy, it's Tibetan calligraphy, so that's even more different and difficult. But being Buddhist, and Tibetan Buddhist, then the scriptures and the prayers are all read and chanted in Tibetan. I was also born into a family of artists. My parents are artists. My parents are also Buddhist. So from a very young age, we were introduced, mostly through my father, to these Tibetan masters, these Tibetan teachers called Lama. And these lamas were a great influence on my life because they were very humble, down to earth, and most importantly, kind. They're very kind. The best way to describe them was that they were very sane, not neurotic.
That's amazing.
So that's what inspired me. But a lot of the scriptures from Tibet that came through with this first wave of lamas who arrived really in the West from the very late 60s through to the early 70s and 80s.
They arrived to the West. Okay.
To the West, yes. Yeah, a lot of these prayers and scriptures were on manuscripts that were kind of old and crumbling. And to learn to read these, I then took it upon myself to copy them with the intention to make them clearer to read and a good way to learn the language as well.
At that point, did you speak Tibetan, or were you learning it as you were writing?
I was learning it as I was writing. In order to learn a language, it's good to write it as well.
Yeah.
You can write it down, take notes, and all of that. But because I came from an artistic family, then I would see more the aesthetics of the writing, and would have this yearning really to be able to write really beautifully and really well. And beautiful handwriting also means that clear handwriting, clarity of handwriting, so others can read much better. So that's how it really started.
So I'm curious to know, because at that point you were living in the UK.
That's right, correct.
And then all these scriptures came to you and you were learning and how to read them.
Mm-hmm.
What were the lessons in those scriptures that really attracted you to what they were teaching or what they were saying?
Many of them are the teachings of the Buddha.
Mm-hmm.
And the Buddha gives very wholesome, good advice, meditation techniques, different practices, different philosophies. There's a whole wealth of wisdoms within these scriptures. And at that time, in the early 70s, then there was very few translations, a few translators. It was kind of so new to the West. I remember there was only maybe 2 or 3 books on Tibetan Buddhism. Now, there's thousands. Thousands.
Not that we've read any of them, though.
Not yet.
Not yet. But it was to learn how to read and to understand is like a golden key, to this wealth of wisdoms. Mm-hmm. All these things to help us get through life, better.
Yeah. It's brilliant that you said that, you learned this in the UK, your family being in the UK, and linking that to saying that there were 2 or 3 books. How was your family presented in the UK as being Buddhists? Were they, I don't want to say if there was discrimination, but maybe, you were considered very different to the society or something like that.
Yeah, there was a difference. My parents are certainly a little bit alternative. They're artists themselves. I wouldn't go as far as to say they were hippies. They're
Okay.
They're a bit more together than that. They're raising me and my brother and sister. I think really what more highlights your question is how I was at school.
Yeah,
sure.
Because when you're at school, you have to follow what's cool, and the other kids are very judgmental and very easy to criticize you for a little bit different. Then you're weird, all that sort of thing. I used to tell you the truth. I used to really keep it kind of quiet. I had a little group of geeky friends who would understand and find it interesting that I was Tibetan Buddhist, and I did meet these Tibetan lamas. But it was almost like 2 worlds, I remember. On one side, I had so much magic and inspiration in my life. During holiday, I didn't enjoy school because my magic and what was important to me in my life was these lamas, these inspiring lamas who obviously had the secret to happiness, And but one thing a Tibetan Buddhist often affiliated with is these blessed cords you wear around your neck. They have a special little knot, but it's blessed by the lamas, and you wear them as protection. And
Are you wearing one right now?
No, actually, maybe, yes. Yes, there's one there. And yeah, I've always worn one all of my life. And that could come to another story, actually. But there's one day I didn't wear them and what happened. But we wore them all my life. And we were going to see what one particular very important head of one of the great schools in Tibetan Buddhism called Karmapa. And he was touring the West, and we followed him as a family for a while. And Karmapa is the 16th Karmapa, 16th incarnation of this particular lineage. And he was given some very amazing ceremonies, one called the Black Hat ceremony. And every time we would see this, we were given one of his protection cords. So I mounted quite a lot of these things, around my neck. Mm-hmm. Now the kids at school, they're like kind of a bit cynical, you teasing, you think they protect you. Let's see if we can break them, and they jump on you and try to all these sort of things.
Wow.
Luckily, I had so many around my neck they could never snap them. But kids are like,
it's not a good feeling to have that.
No, but towards the end of the school, when it came to us all having to do our exams,
okay,
then they'd come up and say, "Hey, can I borrow one of your blessing cords for good luck for the exam?"
No.
Yeah, really.
So internally, they kind of believed it. Like they
must have. Yeah, they must have. And so I used to have to dish them out before the exam, and they'd all go in and do it, and then give them back afterwards.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
I guess people are just superstitious when they want to be.
Yeah. If it's to your advantage, then
that again funny. Ties into the power of our belief that we put on things. What do you have to say about that, and how come it's so powerful that just thinking that something is going to protect us? Like, I don't know if you've seen the power balances in the old days where the athletes used to wear them. I used to wear them because I played basketball,
right?
And I had like 3. So I had like one on my right wrist, another on my left, and then one on my ankle. And I was like, I'm going to be the most balanced basketball player ever.
Of all time.
And I think because of that belief, I probably was a bit more balanced, and I don't know.
Well, it's all down to faith. If you believe in something, even like the placebo effect, if you believe it's going to heal you or protect you, it does work. But with the blessing cord, there's a bit more than that, because it is this special knot they put in it, and they blow on it and say special mantras, and it is from lamas who are enlightened. They have realization. They are in touch with inner, outer, ultimate, something more than us ordinary mundane. So by wearing it, by having faith in it, because it is the faith that really activates it, your faith, it helps us plug into or to be part of that ultimate state. So in that way, it does work. I believe it works. Yeah.
And how does that relate to meditation as well, with maybe not faith, but belief systems and changing them?
Well, changing your own belief systems.
Perhaps. Yeah.
Well, because meditation is directly working with your mind, and in order to change your habits, your belief systems, then you need a strength of mind. You need a clarity of mind. You need that enthusiasm to want to change. And the meditation will give you that clarity, will give you that stability. Basically, you know yourself better.
Right.
You as I say, monkey mind, needs a little bit of taming. And if you can control yourself, not just be running after this or running after that, actually have some focus and a little bit of discipline. We don't like to use the word discipline. Everyone's frightened of discipline, but actually,
especially in this world right now, so many options.
But the truth is that actually it's the discipline that gives you the freedom.
Wow.
It is. It is. Because if you don't have the discipline, you're all over the place. You think you are free, but you're just sort of blown around like a leaf in the wind. Yeah. Having the control of the mind, your mind, and it's not a forced control. It's not an anxiety control. from the meditation perspective, it's from being peaceful, because from being peaceful gives you that clarity and calmness. You know, what do we say when things get a bit hectic? Hey, keep calm, take a deep breath, you know,
Right.
and that helps with your clarity.
Yeah. I want to give people a bit of the context of why we're here sitting with Tashi face to face. So if you guys remember episode 11, we had on David Gamboa, and he created this experience, Live Beyond. And Tashi has been coming to these experiences since day one, right? And we've been here, we're in Tuscany, Italy. And every single morning we've been meditating with Tashi. And every time we begin, he shares some words with us, some wisdom. A lot of things have stuck out to me. But before we move on to the actual lessons, I wanted to ask you if you could share some of the techniques that we've been using, especially in the Buddhist meditations, that they're very simple. Like for me, I've experienced that you don't have to memorize a lot of steps. It's very simple, to the point, and it comes from tradition. It comes from really the great lamas, the enlightened masters. So maybe you can give a couple words on that.
Actually, meditation is very simple. The problem is we're very complicated. So as human beings, so it's for us restless, complicated human beings, just to shut up and sit still, quietly awake without actually doing anything apparently is challenging. So we need to have some small techniques that help us focus the mind to be here in the now, in the present, because that's what meditation is. What meditation isn't is escapism. It isn't just blanking the mind, you know. It isn't that. It is just being here in the present state of awareness, clear, bright, but not attached to anything. Our thoughts, the noises, beautiful sun coming in, all of these things. These are all distractions. So it's just to learn how to be happy with yourself, content, just in the present state of now. Sounds easy, but as you've been
it's not easy. It's not easy.
It takes some practice, but like anything, it takes practice. Meditation is a skill. You need to learn it. So you first need to learn how to be calm, to relax, really slow your heart rate down, upright, be peaceful. If you're having too many conflicting thoughts, emotions, likes, dislikes, attachments, rejections, goods and bads, if we're entertaining all these things, our mind isn't properly relaxed, So therefore, there's more from a scientific, point of view, practical point of view, there's more adrenaline made because of excitement in the mind. If we're not feeding the excitements, if we're learning how just to let go of those stimulus and just be in your natural state of mind, then the adrenaline calms down. Your heartbeat slows down. You don't need so much oxygen to breathe. So your breath becomes very, very slight and very delicate. And that kind of leads you into a deeper state. We say deep, you are deeply, deeply relaxed, but you're super, super aware. You're super awake, super clear, but really beautifully, beautifully, delicately relaxed. Lovely state to be in. Very good for your health, and very good for your mind. Body and mind, of course, is interrelated.
And can you reach that like shorter breath in 15 minutes, or because these mornings they've been 15-minute meditations, etc. And they clean the slate, as you said, the dust off the table
of your mind.
If you could expand on
that. It depends on the ability of each individual. Some people are able to relax much quicker than others. As I said, it's a skill to learn. You have to learn how to just let go really quick. some people take a long time to sort of really calm down. And then even after 10 minutes, they realize their shoulders are still up there, you know, and, oh yeah, let them go, you know. It's a skill to learn. It's pretty, adrenaline is pretty immediate. If you're not stimulated, you know, these chemicals of adrenaline does subside very, very quickly, actually. Mm-hmm. But I would say on average from my experience and talking from myself as well, it takes probably about 10 minutes on average to kind of really calm down. Then after that 10 minutes, when you're properly calm, then the real quality meditation takes place.
Yes.
You know, it takes a little while to let go. Mm-hmm. It does. And you have to adjust yourself sometimes. You know, you can find yourself slumping, so you have to bring yourself up again. You know, it takes a little while. It's all down to skill. Mm-hmm. If you're a real master, oh my goodness, you know, you can just within a few moments just poof into a meditation state. You don't even have to sit in meditation on the floor. Yeah. Whatever you're doing, we call this meditation in action, because you're so well trained in this, you can just get it straight away. Yeah. You're there. Meditation isn't cocooned from the world, you know, blocking out the world. It's being part of your reality.
Yeah. And we've learned a lot of lessons from you this week. Yesterday, actually, we had the meditation and action and creativity workshop with you. And it was amazing to see you in your craft. For those that don't know, Tashi is a professional calligrapher, Tibetan calligrapher. You've been doing this for 40 years, more or less. and yesterday he was demonstrating an art piece, and he was showing us his process in that and inducing these creative states. How did you approach it? If you can give a little background on that creative play state.
It's the creative approach to creativity. There's different types of creativity, and creativity doesn't just belong to artists. Everybody can be creative about something, you know, creative in cleaning, creative in, you know, answering your emails. You can be creative. Everyone can be creative. But to be good creative, for me, to produce a good piece of art, you want some clarity, you know. So as I explained in meditation, first of all, I'm meditative for the creative process. I wouldn't create an art piece if I'd just been distracted by some, frantic phone call with somebody, and you're emotionally a bit unsettled. You know, I wouldn't go into doing something then, because that shows through what you produce. You know, you have these people who can analyze your handwriting, and they can see exactly your state of mind by your handwriting. You know?
Really? Yeah. Who are these people? I'm never going to show them my tests.
Everything is manifest on yourself. What you wear, how you look, everything is a manifestation of your mind, isn't it? You know? So doing a piece of artwork is an extension of that. So my artwork I call Dharma art. It comes from a spiritual motivation, and the themes are you know, Buddhist usually. My motivation is hopefully to, through the artwork, give a window to see that there is stillness or calmness or inspiration or compassion or loving kindness or empathy, all these things that we should engender in our life. So it's to empower that, and a good artist can communicate that, so whoever sees the piece will feel that, you know. So if I'm in a anxious mood, I've had too many coffees and I've got too much sort of conflict and my mind is agitated, that's not the time to do art. So that is the meditative approach to creativity.
And art can be many forms as well.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Like you guys, you know, when you were setting up this, just before we started,
we got agitated.
You got a bit agitated, but then just before we started, you both went, You did a little calm down thing, didn't you?
Yeah, we did.
We all know how to do it. We do.
It's a kind of a switch of a mindset and stuff.
It's a switch of a mindset, yeah. To be mindful.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
I kind of want to ask, moving on to a different topic, when you moved to Tibet, I wanted to ask, well, I don't know if I would say move,
No.
but when you went to Tibet,
Yeah.
just asking, how was your shift of experience, maybe why you moved there, and also I'll leave more questions if the conversation keeps going.
Well, first of all, I never really moved to Tibet. Right. Most of the lamas, the great teachers, are outside of Tibet. They are not really allowed to practice there. A lot of them fled for their lives during 1959 and through the 60s. But certainly Tibetans. I met many Tibetans.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you think of the political atmosphere in Tibet?
Yeah, a bit difficult.
Because you said it was the happiest time and the saddest time.
Oh, when I visited Tibet.
I
did visit once during the early 90s. I was there for a month. And yeah, it was just fantastic to be in the homeland where Tibetan Buddhism is from. Then it really reinforces reasons why they're great yogis up in the mountains and all this sort of thing. And they're fantastic monastic institutions. But because there has been persecution and limitations of this, it was incredibly sad as well to see at the same time. Yeah, that's why a bit of an extreme. I have to say it's improved there.
Okay, great. And how do you see the Tibetan culture being expressed in the West? Is there sometimes some things that don't really align with what you have seen? No,
not really. I think, you see, Tibetan Buddhism is very interesting because in Tibet itself, Buddhism really integrated with their everyday way of life. It's very difficult to separate Tibetism from Buddhism. It's what made Tibet. It was there for hundreds and hundreds of years, and they had great faith. And so their culture really developed out of Buddhism. So a very kind, compassionate. But not only that, is they are what I'd call an ancient race, like Eskimos and like American Indians, these indigenous, proper old race, who, as we know, have an earth wisdom, you could say. How to be with the land, how to be with nature. It's not necessarily Buddhist, but they have these wisdoms that we used to in our cultures in Europe and the UK. We used to know how, and they're all being forgotten now since our grandparents are dying and all this. How to work the land, how to respect the land, where to build a house in a good way, respecting perhaps the nature spirits and all these things. The Tibetan culture had that as well. So not only when they came to the West, they were bringing Tibetan Buddhism with them, they're actually giving some really, really good guidance for ourselves for what we lost. Okay.
So I'm curious to know about when you were being surrounded by these lamas. We even talked the other day that you have met the Dalai Lama a couple times. I want to know what it's like to be around enlightened Lama, master, even the Dalai Lama himself. What is the energy that they exude? How do they carry themselves? How is it so unique?
Yeah, it's not what many people would first assume. They are incredibly down to earth. And as I mentioned before, they're very sane. When I met the Dalai Lama, who's perhaps one of the most amazing, human beings on the planet. Just about everybody loves him, and he definitely loves just about everyone else. Oh, he does love everybody, even his enemies. He loves. He does. So meeting something like that, you are in awe, and very respectful. And as you bow down, he would bow down lower. and I'd bow down even lower, and he'd bow down even lower. You know, we'd be almost under the carpet.
Have to dig a hole, go underground.
Yeah, so humble.
Wow.
So humble, and not, you know, I think we have this very preconceived idea of what a holy person should be like, because it's been served to us just in movies and sort of stereotypes and cliches, and invented by people who've not really met a real spiritual person. Mm-hmm. So we have this idea, but they're very ordinary, beautifully ordinary, not say that's a bad thing being ordinary. It makes us, he's incredibly sane. It makes us look a bit more neurotic, you know, and and a bit proud, you know, a bit more arrogant, all these things, because they've mastered their minds, you know,
and their ego, I would assume.
And their ego, yeah. Uh-huh. Of course, we all need a bit of ego to survive, you know, have an identity, and people need to see that identity. We do, but it's the gross ego that we should tame.
Would you say that the lamas or the enlightened masters, they live in an ego dissolution state, or do they still retain that identity, that ego?
They retain something because they need to get on in the world, for sure. But they're not out of control ego, you know. They're very considerate. They're very mindful not to step on your toes, you know. And because they come from a place of loving kindness, that's what it is. They've tamed their mind. They're peaceful. Yeah, they're very powerful as well. I mean, meeting the Dalai Lama, you know, he has this fantastic, deep, infectious laugh. You know, he's just joy. He's just complete bundle of joy.
He kind of looks like Yoda.
Yeah,
he speaks like Yoda a bit.
Well, actually, Yoda was based on Tibetan lamas.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that makes sense.
Wow.
Yeah. Is his laugh? I'm sorry to interrupt. Is his laugh kind of like childlike? Like it feels like it's like a 5-year-old.
No,
because it's just pure happiness.
It's pure happiness, yeah. But a 5-year-old is not sure of him or herself yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's slightly different, but but it's not at all contrived, his laugh, that, you know. And whatever he says, he doesn't say very much, and many of these lamas don't say much. But when they do say something, every single word is deeply meaningful, you know. And they tend to have a deeper voice, you know.
It's Yoda.
Yes. And because of the Tibetan way of talking, Tibetan grammar is actually organized back to front to our grammar. So Yoda.
Can we get a little demo of what Tibetan sounds?
Tibetan sounds, or I say a prayer. One small prayer to my teacher, my guru, you could say.
Let's bring their energies into this conversation.
Okay. Paden sawe lama rinpoche dagi chiru pendente chi khajen chemo gani chis kusum tuchi ngudru sato so. That's how it sounds.
That's beautiful. Yeah. What does that mean?
You're addressing your root lama, and you're asking for the blessing of body, speech, and mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Notice we say body, speech, mind.
That's what I like. Yeah. When I heard you say mind, I was like, what? Yeah. Why?
Because this is
or just for the people listening, he pointed to his heart when he said mind.
Yeah. Because the head holds the brain, you know, that controls the body. Mind is more than just the brain. Mm-hmm. From a Christian point of view, you can say soul, can't you? And what soul? You know, it's everything, isn't it? It's everywhere. Your mind is everywhere, especially if you're uncontrolled. But the mind is really the center of yourself. your mind is wherever you think it is. People generally, when they have an emotional turmoil, they put their hand on their chests. Here, me, protect me, be kind to me. This is me, If they're having a more of an academic kind of problem, a problem solve, then they hold their head and they shake their head. Oh, I can't work this out. That's the brain. But the mind is more than that. Mind is the center of the whole of yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what can you learn about the mind? I know we've covered it a little bit, but that isn't so psychology related. That isn't so. How can we describe the mind, or how can we tame the mind in a more spiritual way? Or how do we describe that?
It's kind of a big question.
Maybe not spiritual, but
I think we have to understand what the mind is first. And I always kind of joke and say, well, really, we're living with us. Our mind is with our body all our life, and yet we don't really know who we are. We don't know what the mind is. We don't think about the mind too much. Why is the mind thinking about the mind?
That happens more than it should.
Yeah, the point is to tame the bad habits of the mind that get us into trouble. The attachments, the jealousy, the anger.
And sometimes that feels good though, right? In a way, like maybe being angry, you feel like you deserve to be angry, or you have a right to be angry.
If you have a positive outlet, that's quite a good way of converting, rather than suppressing, converting.
Okay.
Your emotions, converting them. So seeing them in essence, they're just an energy.
Right.
But all of these emotions that we have, which make up our mind, or the habit of our mind, can be expressed or understood and expressed in a positive way. So it's not harmful for yourself and harmful for others. So there's a positive and there's a negative side of our emotions. And so, for example, anger, which is the first one people used to say, because anger is so destructive, fiery anger. A friendship for life can be completely destroyed in one angry moment.
Mm-hmm.
If it comes to fisticuffs, bish bash, and that's it. Then there's hate.
Even like another type of relationship, a loving relationship as well.
Yeah, can be ruined. So it's a very destructive thing, anger.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do with that anger? That we have this, you feel heat in the body, fiery, makes you, jump around and blaze with anger. So in a sense, this anger, it's very kind of involved and very passionate. So if you have a positive frame of mind, if through something like meditation, you're much more aware of yourself, you can catch yourself in the bud, just before the anger really takes over yourself, the rage takes over. If you catch yourself at that very point, you can recognize that it's just an energy, and it's your habit of mind that expresses through anger. But actually, if you have understanding of the situation, perhaps, you might feel the emotion of empathy instead.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the same energy that would produce this fiery anger could produce this just absolute, bundles of loving kindness, because you have understanding. You understand the situation. So you need wisdom with the compassion or the, empathy.
And I would even say, like, the other day, when we were doing the Wim Hof method, we were about to jump into an ice cold bath.
Yes.
The instructor, Leonardo, he told us to let out just a scream, like a primal, whatever sound was coming out. And we were all feeling anxiety. We were probably feeling fear. Yeah. And just in my perspective, and I think maybe for all of us, just letting that out, like in a very primal way, really released that emotion.
Yeah, it's therapeutic for sure. It's a good thing to do. And it's better to let it out and shout or go and beat a pillow up than somebody else, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The whole point is, we have ourselves and we have other people. And, when we have other people, then we have a responsibility how we affect other people. not to harm them.
Mhm.
You know, so yeah, better to shout yourself if there's frustration rather than, you know, give them a black eye.
Yeah.
Of course, of course.
Yeah. So it's about mind controlling yourself, mind being aware, having that awareness.
Because you mentioned the phrase habit of mind. So, I mean, that goes to show that we can get in a habit of having continuous thought patterns, and
Absolutely.
we can change that because we can change any habit. Like it's so easy to, not easy to change a habit, but it's, if you use the right techniques, you can definitely get to that
change
point.
habits. First of all, you have to recognize you have a habit. You have to confess and say to yourself, oh yeah, actually I do have a habit. I better do something about that. And they do say that, and that's half the job done. As soon as you recognize it and admit it to yourself, because a lot of the time there's a lot of pride there and we don't want to go there because it's too painful or whatever, you know. So yeah, once we've done that, you can change, you can tame your mind, you know, tame your mind to be a more useful human being on the planet rather than a demanding, unuseful one, selfish and
Of course. I wanted to ask just you know, a bit for our audience and everything. What do you recommend for, you know, people in their 20s, young people, to start off and attempt to meditate or create a habit?
Anyone can meditate. Anyone can meditate. I started meditating when I was 11 years old.
Wow.
And so yes, and I didn't always meditate because we're still learning, and as a 20-year-old is you know, life's a big adventure and it's fun and you're still learning, and well, it should always be like that until you're 90. Actually, you should be still learning and it's fun, but generally we're piecing our life together, you know. So actually, if you can learn to meditate at an early age like that, you have a great career ahead of you with life, you know, because you can learn to be quiet. It is about controlling your mind, you know, and being peaceful. First of all, you have to want to meditate. You have to recognize, this is actually really good, you know, and give yourself that time to do that every day. But it's no different for anybody, you know, to learn to meditate. Perhaps you could say an older person is generally more kind of relaxed and calm. But also an older person could be more stuck in their way and more wooden and rigid and bitter or whatever. You could say that as well. So I think actually a young person meditating would be really cool, really good.
I think it's so powerful as well because at this age, our brain is in the moment where it's maturing.
Yes,
and
very much so.
Like, as we get older, they say, or I mean, we can tend to become more rigid and more fixed because we've seen it all.
That's right.
We think we know more. And I think being younger, and I would love for schools, I was telling Alvaro the other day, I feel very not hurt or resentful, but it's amazing to me how in the school they teach us how to add two numbers together, but they don't teach us how to take control of our mind and how to take control of our emotions.
I know.
The system needs to change. I would say implementing more into what we're learning as young kids, because the whole world would change if we were all more clear-minded.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. That goes to show, you know, that if we all took care of our own business, you know, and were kind to ourselves, you wouldn't need world dictators to tell us all to do it. There is a very famous quote actually from Shantideva. He was an Indian Buddhist saint, and he said, rough translation, he said, you know, the world, our life as we go through life is the world, the planet, the nature is full of rocks and stones and thorns, and we have to tread this path, negotiating this. A dictator or government would say, oh, in that case, we better put roads everywhere. We better cover the planet with leather so it's nice and soft for everyone to go. Like that. Right. But of course, that's not a wise way to do it. Because
although it's attractive in a way, right?
in a way, but all you have to do is cover your own soles of your feet with leather.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, you know,
Uh-huh.
if we all took care of ourselves, you know, in that way, and encourage others to do the same, we all influence each other, you know, in bad ways and good ways. And unfortunately, it's been a bit of a trend to influence each other in a bad way, especially when you're younger, because then it's smoky and drinky and this, that, you know, and it's all kind of fun and everything, but we know that it doesn't lead to any good, you know, in the end. It's good. It's good to be young and expressive and have fun and all the rest of it. But also at the same time, we should encourage each other, you know, to meditate, to be more kind, to be more compassionate, to be more understanding of your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, should do.
Yeah. And that goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, where when you were in school, like you had a very different upbringing, and it was often difficult to speak about these things because we feel that no one understands us. I think something similar happened probably to me when I had the awakening. I had like started to meditate, and in the beginning, I didn't want to really talk about it because I said, maybe this is not a topic that people would like to hear. But I think when I started to open up and tell people, I meditate, you make it normal. That's and in the end, I've seen some friends of mine start saying, let's start to meditate. Like, why not? And
that's what I'm
exactly
talking
what
about. We all influence each other, and we can influence each other in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. I mean, also at the same time, my reaction to that is that we all have a spiritual path or a good path. It's quite personal as well. You know, we don't. The wrong way to do it is tell everyone else that they have to meditate. Mm-hmm. We have our own path, you know, that we take care of. That's our own personal path. But actually, I think just by example, by your friends seeing that you know, going to meditate. Hey, come and see this film. Oh, give me 10 minutes. I'm just going to meditate. Mm-hmm. You know, they respect that.
Yeah.
They would.
And they could see an improvement.
They can see an improvement. Yeah. The great thing about meditation is that just by doing it on a daily basis, 10, 15, 20 minutes, it affects us on a very deep, deep psychological way. Our layers of psyche, it really works on the deepest because we're being properly relaxed, you know, properly peaceful and taming the mind. And the great thing is we don't then have to try and pretend or be a nicer person. It just happens naturally from inside out, rather than putting on nicer looking makeup or doing your hair to look like a nicer person, you know, or putting spiritual clothes on to look like a spiritual person, you know.
Yeah.
Working from inside. It works from inside. And you don't have to try and make it better. Just by doing it, it will improve you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Should we finish up a few questions? The last couple.
Yeah.
First, can we ask you where can people, the audience, reach you?
Well, as an artist, you're welcome to have a look. You can follow me on Instagram.
Okay.
And that's my name, Tashi Mannox. TashiMannox, all one word, Tashi Mannox. I do have a website as well for that. You can check out the Live Beyond as well, where I'm doing an experience with them or whatever. That's me really. Yeah.
You can also find Tashi on if you're at a beach and you see someone with a Tibetan calligraphy tattoo, it's probably from him. Probably. Like honestly, it's probably from him.
Thank you so much.
So we like to wrap up with a couple questions.
All right.
You can answer them as short or as long as you want.
Okay.
And it really goes with the name of the podcast, the Innergy Motto.
Yes.
We explained a bit about what the energy was today in the presentation that we had. Mm-hmm. And we'll repeat it again for newcomers.
Okay.
But the question is, what gets you out of bed in the morning? And in other words, what ignites the flame within, or the energy that we like to call, that we said was the internal sources of energy that allow all humans to tap into their innate physical, mental, and spiritual capabilities?
I think what gets me out of bed is just the love of life. You know, I'm excited that I'm alive.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I love people. In Buddhist terms, it's to do with our motivation, why we're doing things, and it should be for our fellow human beings. Because the truth is, we're all in the same boat. We're all in the same bed that we all have to get out of, you know. And so why not encourage each other? But in Buddhist terms, that's called bodhicitta. But the big truth is that because, that's it, it's more of a because we all want to be happy. No one can argue with that. We all want to be free, those things. That's our right. But the problem is we don't know how to be happy or how to be free. And so something like meditation or Buddhism or other ways can help us be really truly happy. And I say happy, not happy is I've got a car, I've got a beautiful partner, I've got a gorgeous house, and all, because these are temporary happiness. You know, to be really content and happy with whatever we have. That's what motivates me.
That's brilliant. So we usually have the final question, and and that's, you know, what is the last nugget of wisdom for anyone listening, the last tip that you could give anyone?
Be happy.
Sounds great.
Yeah, really, just be sincere in whatever you do. Don't be serious in whatever you do, you know. In other words, don't be kind of tight and tense about it, you know, with too much sort of grasping, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to be, you know, all that way. Relax a little bit and be happy, and just, you can go through life very nicely. And of course, stuff's going to happen. Shit happens, you know, and you just have to learn not to be swayed by that too much. Learn to overcome it. Learn to be courageous. You know, we need courage to get through life, you know, and the courage comes from being self-assured, not in an arrogant way, but, you know, having self-confidence, you know. And what powers that is knowing that everybody else on the planet pretty much wants the same thing. So instead of being competitive and elbowing your way to the front, help everyone along, you know, encourage everyone with you. If you've got a good thing going for you, encourage others to go with you.
Wow, that's so powerful. Tashi, I wanted to end this by acknowledging you for everything that you've done, especially on this trip. I'm so grateful. We're so grateful to have come across you. Yeah. We really feel that you have this internal happiness that shows in the way you express yourself, the way you make jokes, the way
just your laughter is, it's similar to as you described the Dalai Lama. For me, I was going to say, your laughter is so pure.
It's so amazing.
It's fantastic.
And thank you so much for taking this time to be with us and giving us all your wisdom that you have to offer.
And it's hard to express, you know, what we've learned from you, especially this past week, because we don't know how much impact it will have in so many years to come. And it's already an impact.
That's very nice to know. It makes me feel that I'm maybe doing something right, you know, in the world.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Very kind.
Thank you.
Let's ring the.
Oh yes.
To finish.
We'll finish. That's a nice way to finish, isn't it?
It really is.
So that's it for this week's episode on the Energy Motto podcast. If you guys got something out of value from this, make sure to hit that subscribe button to get notified for new episodes with paradigm shifters every single week. We'd love to connect with you on social media as well, and the links for that are down below. Stay blessed and see you next week.